Good afternoon, all of you. So, welcome you all in this platform of KSG. And let's begin our discussion or today's questions. So, the first question on your screen, that is, and we have chosen the theme for today's session, that is fiscal policy. So, fiscal policy in India is formulated by, there are four options: the Reserve Bank of India, the Planning Commission, the Finance Ministry, and the SEBI. This is something old question, but still I thought when we are starting the theme fiscal policy, we should know who formulates this, because we know the monetary policy is formulated by the RBI and the Monetary Policy Committee, which has been launched in 2016, that we know. But who actually formulates this fiscal policy? But what we say, the government formulates it. But in this particular question, it has been clearly indicated that who is that body of the government who formulates this fiscal policy, and this is the Finance Ministry is the answer. Okay. Now, next question. Consider the following statements. This is something about the Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act, or FRBM Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act. It came in 2003, and in 2015 and 16, a review committee was formulated or framed or what was set up under the chairmanship of N.K. Singh, the former IAS officer or bureaucrat. He was the chair of that particular committee, and the review of that committee and that committee also recommended something to the government. What would be the change with respect to that FRBM Act if you see the present scenario or the kind of economic instability that India is facing? That's why that committee recommended on that particular basis. So, on that basis, FRBM, this question has been asked by UPSC. The Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee report has recommended a debt to GDP ratio of 60% for the general. That means combined, when we say, that means central and the state governments, government by 2023, comprising 40% of the central government and 20% of the state government. And this statement is correct, because 40% which has been given for the central government, because central government has to take care of the whole economy. That's why the higher side had been, or higher side was allocated for the central government, and the lower side, just 20%, was allocated in the state government. Okay. Coming to the second statement, this was the key in this particular question. And when this was asked, many students, they simply skipped this question. But few students who attempted this question was a bit tricky, and let me read for you the second statement. The central government has domestic liabilities. When you say domestic liabilities, that means simply you can say the loan was taken from the inside the country. Domestic liabilities of 21% of the GDP, compared to that of 49% of GDP of the state government. You can compare. In the first statement itself, we saw for the central government, the higher side was set, that is the 40%. But in the second statement, if you read carefully, it's saying that for the central government, the domestic liability is 21% of the GDP, whereas for the state government, it is 49%. Ideally, what happens? If you see the debt, that means central government borrows more money than the state government. How would the state government's liability would be higher than the central government? The statement itself contradicts. That's why if you easily eliminate this statement, the statement 2, then you would find the answer. Now coming to the third statement. As per the Constitution of India, it is mandatory for a state to take the central government's consent or permission for raising any loan if the former owes any outstanding liabilities to the latter. Now, what exactly it means? It means, if you see the Article 293 or Clause 3, A state may not, without the consent of the government of India, this has been written in the constitution. I have borrowed it from the constitution. If you have read the center state, this fiscal relation, you would find this. It reads, a state may not, without the consent of the government of India, raise any loan if there is still outstanding any part of a loan which has been made to the state by the government of India or the central government or by its predecessor government, or in respect of which a guarantee has been given by the government of India or by its predecessor government. That means if a state government has already borrowed money either from the current government or from the previous government, then further loan, if any state seeks, then definitely has to take the consent of the central government. This has been clearly written under the Article 293 Clause 3. That's why this question was asked. Again, and the clause 4, if you read, a consent under Clause 3, with reference to this 3, may be granted subject to such conditions, if any, as the government of India may think fit to impose. Okay. So, any kind of, with respect to this Clause 3, if state government wants to take loan from the government of India or the central government, then as per the reference Clause 3, under the Clause 4, government of India can impose any kind of conditions. That means if central government would provide loan to the state government, that means with some conditions it can provide. It can put some kind of restriction over the state government. That is what this Article 293 is all about. So that's why this question was asked. As for the Constitution of India, it is mandatory. It's written in the Constitution. That's why it's mandatory for a state to take the central government's consent for raising any loan if the former owes any outstanding liabilities to the latter. Okay. So obviously 1 and 3 are correct statements. 2 is incorrect. Now coming to this, capital gain is a simple small concept which has been asked by UPSC in Prelims 2012. In which of the following circumstances may capital gain arise? Now what exactly the meaning of capital gain? Then we'll come to the question. Capital gain is the profit. Just mind this word. Profit one earns on the sale of an asset like stocks, bonds or real estate. It results in capital gain when the selling price of an asset exceeds its purchase price. Suppose you have purchased a product at rupees 10 and you are selling at rupees 15. That means the 5 rupees is the profit or the gain you have made on that particular product. So it is the difference between the selling price and the cost price of the asset. Capital loss arises when the reverse happens. Suppose you are selling at a lower price than your purchasing price. So this is the capital gain. Now what exactly question was there or what UPSC has asked? When there is an increase in the sales of a product, increase in sale of a product is not necessarily a capital gain capital gain. Why? Suppose although sales are increasing, but you are not making a profit. Suppose you purchased at 10 rupees and you are selling at the same 10 rupees, although product's demand is at the higher side in the market and you are selling at the same price, then you cannot say that is something capital gain. What exactly the capital gain? When there is a natural increase in the value of the property owned. That means when the natural increase in the value of the property owned, suppose let's say a land property you have purchased 10 years back at the 5 lakh rupees. Now in the 2023 you are selling it at the 10 lakh rupees. That means that amount, the difference is what we call the capital gain you have got from the selling of that particular piece of land. So what exactly? There is a natural increase in the value of the property owned. Of course, this is something this correct statement. And see, you can get the sense that UPSC is asking this application based question. See, capital gain tax is the concept, but this does not ask what is the meaning of capital gain? Simply it says when there is a natural increase in the value of property owned. Simply ask the case study kind of question or application based question. Now coming to the third statement, when you purchase a painting and there is a growth in its value due to increase in its popularity of quotes, you purchase a printing at rupees 10,000, let's say 1 lakh rupees, now you are selling it is the 5 lakh rupees, obviously that is your capital gain. Clear? So this is 213 is the right answer, 1 is not correct. So 213 or B is the correct answer. Now coming to this is about the fiscal stimulus. What is this exactly, fiscal stimulus? I mean, if you see the basic concept about the fiscal policy, then you must have read that is, one is expansionary fiscal policy, another one is your contractionary fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy, when the public expenditure is at a higher side or increases and tax is reduced. And what is that circumstances when this expansionary fiscal policy is applied? When economy is in recession. You want to revive the economy, or the government wants to revive the economy. For example, you just see the COVID situation. The supply chain management was disrupted, productions were stopped, no such work, lockdown was there. So economy went into that negative zone. So government wanted to revive that economy, so started pumping what we call the public expenditure and reducing the tax. Lots of tax incentives were given so that people should start producing, start consuming and all. So that is the expansionary fiscal policy. If you see the contractionary fiscal policy, if the economy is at a higher, facing a problem of inflationary situation, although the RBI or the central bank under this monetary policy committee is executing this monetary policy, but at the other side government will try to manage that inflation as well. If that is a supply chain problem, then government would definitely intervene and try to rectify that problem in the economy. So what government would do? Government would try to control this kind of scenario. So what we call the contractionary fiscal policy, so that it would reduce the public expenditure and increase the tax rate. Okay. So related to that only, expansionary fiscal policy, this fiscal stimulus was asked in the question paper in 2011. And see, this was asked in 2011. Why? Because 2008 to 10, in fact, till 13, there was a kind of, you would say, subprime crisis in the US, and whole world was suffering, although India kind of immune from that, and it did not affect that much to India, but the whole world, specifically the Western world, they suffered a lot from this subprime crisis, which was started from US. Now coming to the question. First statement, it is a massive investment by the government in manufacturing sector to ensure the supply of goods to meet the demand surge caused by rapid economic growth. This is the first statement. Second, it is an intense affirmative action of the government to boost economic activity in the country. If you read all those four, then the most appropriate answer is B. The most appropriate answer is B. Intense affirmative action of the government to boost economic activity in the country. Fiscal stimulus, almost similar to the expansionary fiscal policy. Now, just see what exactly the fiscal stimulus is all about. During a recession, a well-designed fiscal stimulus, a government spending increases, or what we call the public expenditure increases, tax cut. Tax cut means the tax is reduced so that people would have more amount of money or more of their income, and they would spend in the economy, or both can soar of demand for goods and services and thereby help to reduce the recession's depth and length and make the recovery more robust. So this is what is fiscal stimulus. In fact, this question is valid for the, let's say, COVID kind of situation. This concept is valid for the COVID kind of situation because government was trying to recover the economy due to this negative or revive this economy due to this COVID-like situation and all. Okay. Now, next question: which one of the following is likely to be one of the most inflationary in its effects? Now, I think you know this concept, budget deficit. Let me explain that first. Budget deficit. What is this budget deficit? Budget deficit means when the public expenditure, the expenditure incurred by the government is more than its revenue. So what government does? Government starts rectifying or try to manage that difference of expenditure and revenue. So sometimes government borrows money from outside and sometimes government prints new currency. That means RBI on behalf of governments prints new currency so that they can manage this deficit. But the problem arises what? The problem is when you print or you would say supply more money into the economy or pump more money into the economy, but with the matching of that extra supply, the economy has not produced enough goods and services. The economy has not produced enough goods and services. So this extra amount of supply of money leads to inflationary situation because now the economy has too much money but less goods and services. That means it would raise the price of goods and services in the market, or what we call the inflationary situation, and that concept is known as deficit financing. This was the concept. Now coming to this, which one of the following is likely to be one of the most inflationary in its effect? First, repayment of public debt, borrowing from the public to finance a budget deficit, borrowing from the banks to finance a budget deficit. C is another, you would say, measure that government can take to rectify the deficit. But which measure is the inflationary one? Then the D is the correct answer. Creation of new money to finance a budget deficit. That means you are pumping money into the economy by printing more currency, more money, but the goods and services economy is constant. You have not increased that amount of goods and services equally with the supply of money. That is what we call this deficit financing. Through printing of new money leads to inflationary situation. Okay. So that's it from today's discussion. Let me give you a brief recap. So we discussed who implements or executes this fiscal policy, and then we discussed this FRBM Act related question, and then we discussed what exactly the meaning of capital gain, and then your fiscal stimulus. Okay, and the last one was the measure which is most inflationary in its effect. Okay, thank you all, and see you soon tomorrow at the same time with more new themes and new questions. Thank you. All the best.